What began as an aid mission by a Tennessee National Guard unit launched a military investigation into criminal actions by soldiers. The Channel 4 I-Team has uncovered what happened when that unit traveled from Tennessee to Africa.
The I-Team accessed a military investigation that exposes the crime committed overseas and how sensitive material was put at risk. Our chief investigative reporter Jeremy Finley has more on this dishonorable conduct.
The 775th Engineering Detachment crossed the world for their assignment, leaving Jackson, Tennessee, and traveling to the Horn of Africa, specifically Djibouti, Africa, on the border of Ethiopia. They were there for an essential assignment, but something happened, something that launched a criminal investigation into soldiers and prostitutes in an area of the world known for human trafficking. They went to provide a vital resource. But what Tennessee soldiers did in a foreign land launched a U.S. Army criminal investigation into how Tennesseans ignored warnings about human trafficking and prostitution in the Horn of Africa, and in the process placed sensitive classified materials in jeopardy.
There need to be some consequences.
The Channel 4 I-Team not only obtained the military investigation, but also photographs and other evidence into what members of the 775th Engineering Detachment did in both Djibouti, Africa, and in just across the border in Dire Dawa, Ethiopia. Criminal actions the public never knew about until now. The unit was sent to help dig water wells in and around Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti and Dire Dawa. The military investigation shows the soldiers were given training by a captain in early July about, quote, that there was an issue with human trafficking in the area, how women end up stranded in Dire Dawa while trying to get to the Middle East. I told them not to engage in using prostitutes and that part of the mission is a positive projection of America. Moses Achonu is a native African and teaches African history at Vanderbilt.
The poverty makes people desperate in that region, and it is not uncommon sometimes to see underage girls and sometimes even boys try to eke out a living by selling themselves.
But both before and after that training, the military investigation found probable cause that 9 of the 19 members of the unit had sex with prostitutes, either at an off-base residence in Djibouti or committed sexual acts in exchange for money at the Samrat Hotel in Dire Dawa. The agent's investigation shows a lieutenant saying there were ringleaders who told the soldiers what to say to try to stay out of trouble, how many of the men bragged about the sex, and how a medic handed out condoms.
To perpetrate that absolutely counters everything that we should be there to do.
Derry Smith is an expert in human trafficking. There have been reports of soldiers paying for prostitutes throughout recorded history. What do you say to the person who says, what's the big deal?
I think if it was your daughter or your niece, you might think it was a really big deal.
When the soldiers were later interviewed, one sergeant made a spontaneous statement that several of the women referring to the prostitutes were younger than his daughter. The report blacked out the age of that soldier's daughter.
How can you have a conscience and not speak up and try to do something?
But the investigation shows at least one lieutenant did do something. In an interview, he writes that a sergeant reported to him that soldiers were bringing prostitutes back to their room at the Samrat Hotel. That lieutenant then alerted a military officer. And photographs and drawings show why there was additional concern. That lieutenant says that senior leaders were taking prostitutes to a room where their weapons were stored. He goes on to say that the prostitutes were taken to a sergeant's room where a secure communication system was kept, and also secret documents were stored. In another interview, a soldier is asked, tell about the security violations regarding the classified information or classified computer. His response, I just know the girl was in the room. In yet another interview, a lieutenant is asked, do you know if any sensitive or classified material has been compromised? He answers, no, but everything has been accounted for.
It's a cocktail of pressure, but you expect professionally trained soldiers to be able to withstand that pressure and do the job for which they were sent there.
While one of the soldiers did admit to paying for a prostitute, others asked for lawyers. Evidence was seized. The colonel said that some soldiers did not want to give up their phones. The colonel is quoted as believing the phones may contain evidence of criminal actions. Hearing all of this makes those who fight against human trafficking say the National Guard needs to explain what happened.
If the military has the face that we do not want our soldiers to go in and buy sex, then there needs to be some consequences.
So, what were the consequences? Tomorrow night at 6, we press for answers, both here in the Mid-State and in Africa. How were those soldiers punished, and did the punishment fit the crime? And there's even more. Investigators believe that they found drugs in a sergeant's room, but those drugs were never collected for analysis. The latest on our dishonorable conduct investigation tomorrow night at 6. I'm Jeremy Finley reporting for the Channel 4 I-Team.